So, welcome back. I hope you had a nice discussion on these key topics, how evil entered into this world. Just to give a recap, man, God created everything out of love. And in his love, he has given free will to the creation, to specifically to angels. We discussed about it. The free will is to make a choice which God wants them to make us good. He also gave the angels the ability to reason out between good and bad, which is good and which is bad, the knowledge of good and evil. And he asked them to choose only good, and most of them chose good. But one evil angel, that is Lucifer, choose bad, choose evil, and that is when evil came into existence. And we say that, okay, what is evil? Evil is a desire to explore the forbidden areas, forbidden concepts of what God has defined it as forbidden. And the acts which are the consequences of this desire is the sin, which is a revolt against God. Now we are going to discuss about the fall of mankind. Fall of mankind is our next topic. Fall of mankind. Till now we have discussed about angels. We have discussed about how plants cannot do sin, how animals cannot do sin, but angels can do sin, and they are the first reason why the evil and the sinful things came into existence. And now we are going to check on what happened to man. Man, originally, when he was created, he is created as a sinless being. God has specifically taken care, and he created in his own image and likeness, which means that he possesses the image of God, and he likes everything what God likes. He is like God, you can say, like father, like son, something like that. Whatever the goodness what God has, a similar goodness is found in men, and that is how God has created him. And God has given him all the goodness, the riches of the creation, so that man can go and rule the world, rule all the creations. That is when, if you see Genesis chapter 1 verses 26, it says, "Then God said, let us make man in our own image, or in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the birds of the heavens, and over the livestock, and over all the earth, and over every creeping things and creep that creeps on the earth." So God gave them all the creations, whatever He has created on this earth, the man to take dominion over them. And he is kind of an authoritative representative of God, who is like his image, and is like he is in his own likeness of God. So that is where it all started. And again, God loved mankind. God loved mankind. The moment mankind is been loved by God, obviously it means that He gives freedom. And man, to man also He gave freedom. Man, He gave freedom to choose anything, whatever He wants to do. So He says that you do whatever you want to do in this creation. I don't have any problem. But except for one thing, you can do anything and everything you want. Anything and everything want you can do, but except only one thing. That one thing is that don't eat of the fruit of the tree of knowledge. Don't eat of the fruit of the tree of knowledge, because the day when you eat, you will know good and evil, and you will surely die. The thing is, God has given the choice, but God has not given the reasoning ability to know what is good and what is evil. He this time, for angels, he just opened door, and then he exposed the concepts and the evil concepts for them to really access freely. But for man, he said, "Now I will not do that mistake. I am going to expose them to all the good concepts. I will not expose them to the bad concepts at all. The ideas, the bad knowledge of bad or the knowledge of the evil. I will not expose them to that. But rather, I'll put the knowledge of good and bad, the differentiation between good and bad, into a tree and plant it in the Eden garden. And I will ask man not to eat of the fruit of the knowledge of good and evil, the tree of knowledge of good and evil. So the thing is that God is now saying to man, I love you so much that I'm giving the whole creation for you to rule, and you can do whatever you want to do, and nothing will be taken as an evil or as sin to me, except that don't touch that tree of knowledge of good and evil. The reason is that the moment you eat that particular fruit, what will happen is your eyes will be open and you will get to know both good and bad. And when you know between good and bad, what will happen is that you will surely take the accountability of your activity then. When you do good things, you are accountable for it. And when you do evil things, you are accountable for it. For good things, you will be rewarded, but for the bad things, you will get punished. But the thing is that if you have not known what is good and what is bad, then whatever you do, it's perfectly fine. Like a small child, you know that the small child, whenever it innocently does even a bad thing, without even knowing that it's a bad thing, a mother will not consider that it has sinned or it's done something wrong. It will say it is an innocent child. It don't know. It doesn't know about good and evil. What is good and evil? So I will forgive and take it. It's exactly like the same attitude of the mother God has. Before man sinned, God has the same motherly attitude, saying that you are allowed to do anything whatever you want. Nothing is going to take me as good or bad. I'm going to view everything as good in your case. And only thing what you do is don't acquire the knowledge of good and bad. And that is exactly where Satan is coming and capitalizing. And he is going to the Eve. The Lucifer is going as a snake to to Eve, and start interacting, and start asking, and then putting small bit of venom to the evil, to the Eve, saying that, is it that you can eat any of these trees? And then you said, yeah, yeah, everything, yeah, we can eat. If everything what you can eat, can you be able to eat that knowledge of the tree of knowledge of good and bad? And then you said, no, 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 no. That is the only one tree which we don't want to eat, and God will is not asked us to eat. Now, the devil says that it is not just because God is not allowing you to eat because you will die. You will surely not die, but you will know uh, difference between good and bad, and you will be like God. Now, the devil is slowly instigating Eve to think the same way what it used to think earlier, to be like God. Devil wants to be like God, and it is also sowing the same seed in Eve's mind, saying that be like God, try to become like God, try to become like God. That is exactly what CCC also says us. Catechism of the Catholic Church 398 says, seduced by the devil, man wanted to be like God, but without God, but before God, and not in accordance with God. Man want to be like God, without God, before God, and not in accordance with God. That is what the starting point. The pride is seeking. I want to be like God. I want to elevate myself to the level of God, because when I know between good and bad, then I will be like God. A seduction, saying that, okay, try to grab that, because that one thing, the knowledge of good and bad, immediately you will become like God. And that attracted Eve, and she just ate the forbidden fruit and she gave it to Adam. Adam also ate the forbidden fruit, and they both sinned against God. Now, the thing is that if you see the choice pattern, what they have, okay, before mankind sinned, before Adam sinned, okay, he has all the choices A, B, C, D. He can choose anything, whatever he wants. God is not no problem with that, but he has a red button K. That is the only thing what God said. This K button alone, that is the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, don't touch it. Don't touch that K button alone. You can do whatever the things what you want. Okay, A or B or C or D or E, whatever you want to do, I don't really have any problem. But except K, you can do whatever you want. Now, the thing is that under this situation, if you really see man's status, he has freedom. Yes, he has freedom of choice. And whether he knows about good and evil in that freedom, no, he doesn't have knowledge about good and evil. So, whatever the choice he's making between A and E is all good to God, not a problem. Okay, so the thing is that with respect to A to E, he doesn't have an opportunity to sin. But if he touches K, if it touches K, the K, I just put it like that because it is a knowledge of good and evil. If it touches K, then he has an opportunity to sin. So he has an opportunity to sin by touching K, but he also has an opportunity to not to sin if he doesn't touch K. And the option is so very varied that he doesn't need to touch K at all. He can just live a beautiful life, and with the love of God, using A, B, C, D, E. But man, instead of instead of using this versatile choice, choose to sin. And when he choose to sin, what has happened is, just look very carefully here. The choice which was considered to be all good now opens up to be some of them are good, some of them are evil. For example, I'll tell you, before they sinned, they were clothed with the glory of God and they are naked. They are just naked, but they cannot see their nakedness at all. And they look good. They are beautiful. They are, before they sin, they looks beautiful, and they really admire their beauty. They are naked, but they are admire their beauty. And that is where the same nakedness in the glory of God, okay, after they ate and sinned against God, it becomes naked, which is shameful for them. Shameful for them. So the thing is that now the nakedness, which is glorifying, now become a shameful thing. So now they can differentiate between good and evil, good and bad. So now, if they have to choose, they have to be careful. They have to choose A or C or E alone to be in good terms with God. And if they choose B or D, they are actually sinning against God. Now, the thing is that each act has a repercussion. For example, they touched the K button, which is they took the fruit of the knowledge of tree, the tree of knowledge of good and bad. They ate it. Immediately, they have a consequences that death came into existence. Similarly, whenever they touch a wrong choice, they make a wrong choice and do it, something which is not comfortable, something which is making them suffering comes into existence. Comes into existence. It is not God who is creating it, it is man who is inviting it. Death is not created by God and then say that, okay, man has to die. No. God said that you don't need to die. Don't choose the tree of knowledge and then you will live. But man choose to die. So the sufferings and the sicknesses, everything has come by the choice what man made. By the choice what man made. Like eating the fruit has brought death to mankind. So the moment we make a choice which is not in accordance with God's goodness, then something evil is going to come to birth, which is conceived. We are bringing it out, We are bringing forth, we are giving birth to an evil, suffering thing. For example, sickness is something which we gave birth. For example, about a century back, there is no sickness called AIDS. It came because people are so much going into lustful things. So there is an evil disease which came, which is called as AIDS. So as and when we start exploring the evil things, evil options, like every evil option, whenever we start exploring, the new sufferings will crop up. New sufferings will crop up, and that new sufferings will make man to suffer, like war, like fighting, like family issues. So many different type of difficulties start coming as we start exploring all the forbidden options as in the evil design. That is what has happened till now. The world is sinking inside all this suffering because it is trying to explore more and more evil. It is trying to make sin after sin after sin by taking all the evil desires and putting it into practice. And so the sufferings are increasing. The reason why suffering God allows is simply like this. It's like this. If suppose if there is no suffering, let's say that sickness, war, death, everything is removed. Just think about it. Like man is going to make choice A, B, C, D, whatever it may be, without even knowing, or without even knowing that there is an end result which is going to be disastrous. The end punishment is going to be disastrous. Now the thing is that, but if suppose if there are pain coming into picture as he is choosing bad things, then there is a reminder God is giving that the sinfulness is increasing in this world, to make a turn back to God, an opportunity, giving man an opportunity to realize that yes, I am suffering because of this sin. I have to turn back and come to the Lord. So that is where suffering comes into picture. Why am I so much suffering? Because I have to turn back my life towards God. And that is the reason we are suffering. And the thing is that it doesn't mean that, okay, the moment we turn back, we are going to all be saved instantly. No, it is going to be a slow and steady process, which is what this course is all about. It's a slow and steady process which is going to refine us to become as his image and likeness. So the thing is that we are inviting trouble to ourselves by sinning, and sin is going to produce suffering, and suffering is a wake up call for us to turn back to God. Okay, so that is where we are saying what causes the sin. Fundamentally, it is our love, selfish love, pride, the pride which is our selfish love, which is coming out. It is an attitude of I want to be like God. I want to be like God. I don't want to trust his goodness. I don't want him. I don't want his goodness, but I myself want to be like God. That attitude. Next is that don't even care about God's word. Whatever he said, just neglecting it, just ignoring it, and don't obeying it at all. That is causing sin. And the next is that turning our hearts away from the love of God. God is pouring out his love, giving everything, his goodness, just his own only goodness. But then we are saying no. Very, very offending to God. And this is what is causing sin. And when we see the Catechism of the Catholic Church, it defines the sin very, very beautifully. Sin is an offense against God. Sin is an offense against God. Against you. This is what Psalm 51 says. Against you and you alone have I sinned and done that which is evil in your sight. Sin itself against God's love for us and turn our heart away from it. Sin is thus love of oneself even to the contempt of God. In this proud self exaltation, sin is diametrically opposed to the obedience of Jesus, which achieves our salvation. So, this is the definition of sin. Sin is an offense against God, and the sin is an act of selfishness, which is turning our hearts away from God. Okay, so this is a definition which is a very beautiful definition, which is sin. In short, we can say that the evil desire which is actually coming out as an action is a sin. Okay, and that Saint Augustine clearly states in this way: it has been defined as, that is, sin has been defined as an utterance, a deed, or a desire contrary to the eternal law. Okay, so this is the way Augustine defines it. And now we are going to the second round of discussion questions on this topic of how the fall of mankind is. So let's go to the breakout room and quickly discuss and come back for the next topic.